screen. There's three different ways of measuring. There's three different ways of measuring degrees. Sorry, angles. You can measure in degrees, radians, or gradians. On your screen, you might see a DR or GR, or DEG, RAD, GRAD, grad. Okay. You want degrees, so make sure your calculator is in degrees. If you have to switch it, you'll be looking for a DRG key that looks like this, or you have to press mode and then choose 1, 2, or 3 accordingly. Please make sure you can see a D or DEG on your calculator now. Go. Should be on the top.
Do you ever want to switch it to the other way?
No, for you, you won't need to switch until grade 11 and 12. Yeah, so it's always going to be in degrees. And I think now it's grade 12. Okay.
Does it work once you have it?
Shh. All questions will be wrong. Okay. So, a couple things. Number one from last year, angles or corners are capital letters. Okay. Sides can be 2 capital letters or a lowercase letter of the opposite side. So here we have a triangle that's half labeled. If this side here is capital B, the opposite side, see how I drew an arrow straight across? That means it's opposite. That would be little b. Just like if this side here, this corner is capital T, what would this side be? Small t. And then what would I label this corner? Big A. All right. You have to know how to label your triangles. So I can then talk about this side here as BA, or what else could I call it? Small t. Good. Fill in this one and this one. Go. Fill in those two. So what's little a? Capital B, capital T. What do we call little capital AT? Little b. Okay, so that's the basics. You gotta know how to do that. Good. So going on then, triangles add up to 180. So if I know that this angle here is 40 degrees, to find this other angle that I don't know, I would subtract 180 minus 90 minus 40 equals 50 degrees. Make sure you use your degree symbol. That's your units. Okay, it's a little circle that's, what do they call that? Superscript? Superscripts. Yeah, there you go. Superscript little circle. Make sure you don't make it 500 degrees though, because that's wrong. It should be 50 with a little tiny circle at the top. Degree symbol. Okay. Good. Now talking about angles. So for angles, you can use a capital letter. For example, angle B. Or you can use 3 letters with the vertex, which is fancy for corner, in the middle. So angle B, I could call angle TBO. Because B must be in the middle. What's another name for it? B's in the middle, but OBT. So I switch the outside letters. The angle we're talking about, okay, you always put the vertice right smack dab in the middle. That's important. O and T can switch, but the middle letter must be the middle letter. We're okay with that? Good. So instead of just making it uninteresting, we like to make it super interesting. The Greeks studied this a lot, so often we use Greek letters. So beta is a capital B. Okay, we often use beta. Theta is a circle with a line through it, like so. And alpha and omega, alpha is a fish, kind of like a little fish. Okay. So those are 3 Greek letters that we often use. So find angle alpha, find angle theta, find angle beta. All right. Good. So we could call this here angle beta. Angle beta also equals angle T. Also, oops, I should use my angle symbol. Angle T And what are the other two angles, please? Use 3 letters. Sabrina, what's one of them? Oh, this is in the middle. What's over here then? B. And then the other one would be, good. And what if you switch them? OTB. Okay. Good. You guys okay with naming them? I don't think so. Alright. So we can also, usually for the capital letters, we put them on the outside, but the Greek letters we like to put it inside. So this here would be angle beta. Alright. Okay. Yep.
How do you know that one's beta?
Because I just labeled it beta. That's why. Otherwise, no, like you'll see it there. Okay, there'll be an angle. Like down below, you see how I have. Yeah, don't worry. That'll be part will come clear in a second. Okay, so don't worry about that. Okay, so acute angles. Those are angles that are just less than 90. So when they say acute angles, you can really ignore it because all the angles in the triangle will be acute that you're trying to find. Okay. So some basics. HOA. HOA is really important. Always label your HOA. It stands for hypotenuse, opposite, adjacent side. If you label in that order, you can't go wrong. If you don't, it'll be tough. So what we're trying to do now, looking at this is what we call our angle of interest. It's the angle that we're talking about. Okay. So if that's our angle of interest, we can label this with our HOA. Always start with H. Start by finding 90 degrees and draw an arrow to the opposite side. And that is your hypotenuse. Okay. Then we find our angle of interest right here. And we draw an arrow from our angle of interest straight across. That's the opposite side. Which is the side that's left over that we don't know what the word really even means? Adjacent. So you can't get it wrong, folks. If you label HOA, trust me, even essentials math, you can get it right. Okay? Good. Label your HOA. Can your HOA change? Absolutely. Because if I looked at a different angle, you're going to see this in a second, don't write this down. If I start looking at this angle, well, that's the opposite side, and that would be the adjacent. So that's going to come up. Don't write it down. We'll see in a second. Okay, before we do that, let's do some easy ones. Make sure your calculator's in degrees. Find 10, 12 degrees. So on your calculator, if you actually press the button 10 and you see the words on your screen, then you press 10, 12 equals. If you don't see the words, then you press 10, 12, and you don't press equals. So I always have an old school calculator because they're harder to use. So I have to go 10, 12, 10. There you go. There's your answer. 0.2125. So we're going to do what we call truncating. Not rounding, but truncating. Truncating means you write down 4 decimals, forget about the rest. It's what you did before you knew how to round. Okay, so we're truncating. Okay, find the other ones. Tan 35.7 degrees. .7185. Okay. Anyone not getting that? If not, come up right away so I'll help you with your calculator. Do the last one. $58.10. 1.6003. Okay. Any calculator issues? Do you know how your calculator knew that? I'll show you. Because your parents, a long, long time ago. Oh, come on. Oh, I know we had you. There we go. They came up with this table of all these ratios. And then you have to do 4 decimal multiplications to figure out their answers. So for 10 degrees, we know the sine has to be 1.1736. We know if we have tangent 1.4281 that the angle must be 55 degrees. So they've figured all this stuff out for us. Okay, this is all programmed into your calculator. Okay, so going back here, what kind of angle would give us a tan ratio greater than 1? Okay, so just to let you know, tan 45 degrees, that equals what? That equals 1. Kind of cool. So that must, if it equals 1 is a fraction, or 2 over 2, or 3 over 3, or 4 over 4. So those are some different side lengths that we can have for tan 45 degrees. Okay? Now, in order to get something that's bigger than 1, what has to happen to the top number? It's got to be bigger than the bottom. Okay? So like 5 over 1, sorry, or 5 over 4. It just has to be a little bit bigger. So the angle then would have to be bigger than 45 degrees. Now if it's less than 1, then the angle would be less than 45 degrees. Okay, and that would be something like 1 over 2 or 2 over 3. The bottom number just must be bigger for the ratio. Okay. Don't really need to worry about these two questions too much. It just kind of comes up in your homework. That's why they're there. Kind of give you an understanding of the fraction stuff. Evan?
So is there any other ones we have to
No, when you get older in university and stuff, you do like what's sine 0, sine 1, tan 1, cos 1, all that stuff. That's the university. Don't worry about that. Okay. Good. Okay, so draw label 2 side lengths on a triangle with the following info. Tan B is 3. In order for B to be 3, that means you would have to have a side length of 3 to 1. Right? Or you could have, if this is side angle B, it could be 6 and 2. Or, what else? 9 and 3. Or, what else? 12 and 4. Because all of them are going to go 12 over 4 equals 3. All the ratios will be 3. Okay. So, what about this other one? Tan y equals 0.25. Well, what is 0.25 as a fraction? 1/4. So we can have 4 and 1. Right? Or we can have what? 2 and 8. Or we can have 3 and 12. Okay, so that's kind of what they're getting to do for that question. All right, it's kind of a specific one. Not going to see that a lot. All right, let's get stuff that you are going to see. So you are going to definitely have a test question like this. Find the tangent ratios as fractions. So tan A equals O over A. This here will be no mark. That's given to you. I'm not going to give you a mark for that. So let's label your HOA. According to A, label your HOA. That's our angle of interest. Start by labeling your hypotenuse, then label your opposite side, and the one that you have no idea what it means is last. Okay. So, which one would be O over A? Well, side O is right here. What two letters would we use? C and B. Okay. Use the capital letters. And for your adjacent side, what two letters would we use? C and A, or AC. Okay. See how I'm not too big on should be alphabetical, but I don't get too crazy about that. Now, what else could it also be? What would be the lowercase letters? This would be little a, and this would be little b. Okay? So I could give you two different answers there, either or. If I don't ask for lowercase letters, just give me the capitals. Keep it simple. All right? Good. Now what we're going to do is switch. So now we're looking for tan B. This is now our angle of interest. So please relabel your HOA. Will your hypotenuse change? Never does. What changes is opposite is now over here, and adjacent is now over there. So, what would that be then? Use the capital letters. What will go on top of your fraction for your O? AC. And what goes on the bottom? BC. Do you guys see anything here between these two answers? Yeah. When you're dealing with tangent and you change your angle, what happens to your fractions? They flip. So, without even labeling it, what would be the second fraction for the lowercase letters? B over A, because it would flip as well. Okay? So if you change your angle, you change your HOA. That's an important thing to know today. Change angle, change HOA. Let's write that down. Change angle, arrow, change HOA. And what you can do is just even underline O and A, double underline it. Because those are the only ones that change. Your hypotenuse never does. Okay? Good. So, sometimes you'll have to do it with the letters. Sometimes you're going to have to do it with the numbers. Let's go and label it with our numbers. Here's angle A. Label your HOA, please. Go. So, H, O, and A. Guess what we're going to have to do to figure out A? Starts with a P and ends with an Pythagoras. AC squared equals 15 squared minus 12 squared. AC squared equals 81. So AC equals root 81. Now later you're going to see that root 81 that number might not work out. So you might have to use that in your fraction. You'll see that later. Okay. For now, it works out. So AC equals 9. Okay. So what's the tangent of A? 12 over 9. Half marks. What's for full marks, Pinto? That's right. Which is, oh, you're having a nap there. You didn't reduce. 4 over 3. The scholar in the back, known as Dion, gets that one right.
Actually, Mr. Bell told me stupid earlier.
What? Well, were you trying to give a motivational speech again? That's not nice of Mr. Bell. I'll have a chat with him.
But he was being stupid.
Oh, well, I think he said that you were acting stupid. That doesn't mean you were. Oh.
Pretty funny.
I'm not going to get into it. Okay. Tan B. What is it? Real quick. Quick. What is it? Tan B. Good. 9 over 12 and 3 over 4. Whoops. Bingo. Yeah, that's all I did because up above, remember we saw the fraction flips? So if we switch angles, we know that the fraction flips. Okay. Good. Okay. So what we want to do now, none of this stuff's going to be on your quiz, by the way, because it's too easy. This will be on your quiz. Find as a fraction, then 4 decimals. So as find as a fraction, then we'll do our 4 decimals. Here's theta, right here, tan theta. So label your HOA. Go. Label your HOA. Find tan theta. H, O, and A. Oh, what do I have to do first? Pythagoras. So use O squared, that's good enough, and find O. Leave it as a radical. So 300. So O equals square root 300. Is that correct? Good. Now, what would then tan theta be? Opposite side is square root 300, and the bottom of the fraction is 22. That's something new. You haven't seen that before. Square root 300 over 22. Aha. Now, if you could probably simplify that as 10 root 3. So you could use 10 root 3 over 22. Aha, you're actually using stuff we learned. You say math is useless. Actually, you know what? Trigonometry, you use this in almost every trade, just to let you know. Yeah, but it's easy stuff. Okay. Okay, go to your calculator. 300 square root 300 divided by 22 equals 0.7872. Now some people need to use brackets around the 300 if otherwise their calculator is not, you're telling your calculator to do something else. Okay? Has everyone got that answer? Okay. So then what about tan beta? If we switch angle, what happens? Our fraction flips. Okay, go ahead. Try on your calculator. 1.2701. Any calculator issues? Anyone not get it? Come up right away. No? Okay. Okay, what about this? Tan 2 beta. So, Catherine, question? No. Tan 2 beta, what do we do for that? Should we just double this angle then? Just times that by 2? No, you can't. You can't double tan beta. Okay? What you have to do is you have to find the angle beta and then times it by 2, then find tan of 2 beta. Okay, so you can't just double the ratio, you got to find the angle and double the angle. Okay, we're not going to do that yet because we kind of jumped ahead a bit. Alright, I just want to let you know you just can't double it because you're not doubling twice the ratio, you're doubling the angle. So, let's practice finding angles. Here we have tan alpha equals 1.1237. How would we get tan to the other side? Any ideas? Who said divide by 10? Okay, so don't write this down though. Divide by 10, divide by 10. That's right. This equals 1 over 10 times 1.237. How do we write 1 over 10 using a decimal? Sorry, using an exponent. How do we put 10 on top of the fraction? -1. And that's all you need to know. So, when you want to separate alpha and tan, you move tan to the other side, it becomes tan negative 1. We call that, well, because of calculators, people kind of use inverse tan. The true math world calls it arc tan. But you'll notice I say inverse tan all the time as well now because of calculators. Okay? So, on your calc, now that you wrote this line of work down, Evan, now that you wrote that line of work down, then you can go to your calculator and figure out the value of alpha. Some people can type it in as you see it. Other people, make sure you use your second function or your inverse button so you get to the yellow writing with tan negative 1. So some people press that first, your second or your shift button. Then press tan negative 1, then 1.237, then equals. (51 degrees). We usually round angles to a whole number, although in your textbooks they sometimes call for 1 decimal. Any calculator issues?
What's the answer to this one?
51 degrees. Right there.
You guys can do that?
Okay, next one.
No, I just couldn't figure that out. I was like,
X. What happens to tan when you move it to the other side? Tan negative 1, 3/4. Now, if you know how to use your ABC button, you can use a fraction, but that might screw you up for the next question. All of the calculators will work if you do bracket 3 divided by 4 bracket. Okay, they'll all work. Or you could actually do that yourself and change your fraction to 0.75. This is what I recommend right there. Okay, because that's going to work for every question you can get. On old calculators, you go 3 divided by 4, press equals, and then second function, tan negative 1. New calculators, you put in as you see it with the 3 divided by 4 part. 3 divided by 4 equals inverse tan 36.86, so we round that to 37 degrees. Okay. Any calculator issues? Number 3 is the hardest of the hard with the calculator. What do we do with tangent? Watkins? Inverse tan. Again, instead of a fraction, change it to a division and use brackets. Then find your answer. Okay, make sure everyone practice the last one. It's the hardest of the hard. You should get 35.5 degrees, which rounds to 36 degrees.
is second instead of inverse?
Yeah, inverse second. Sometimes calculators have shift. Okay. Yeah. Any other questions? Going once? Twice? So you will have that on your test for 1 simple mark, because it's that easy. Okay. Next one. Now you have to do everything. So you actually have to set up the fraction first. These are the questions you're going to be asked. Find W. So for W, label your HOA, please. So we say tan W. You always must have a letter or a fraction in between tan and the equal sign. If you don't, you're not going to get full marks. So you must have a number or a letter there. Okay. So what's W? What's the fraction? Don't, yep, probably. Devinder? Bingo. Good job. 3.6 divided by 5.2. What's the next line of work you have to write? W equals tan negative 1, because you got to do the opposite. 3.6 divided by 5.2 in brackets. Okay, all calculators can do that, but not all calculators can do decimal fractions, because they're not really that correct. Okay. Now go to your calculator, get me an answer. $35 degrees, 34.69. Yep.
Do you want us to write the 4 decimal numbers and then?
Yeah. So now it'll switch and now
So you should start by saying tan V. You must have a letter or a number in between tan and equal sign. If we switch angles, what happens to our HOA? It switches as well. So that's O according to angle V, and that's A. Yeah, for tangent, only tangent. So in V equals inverse tan negative 1, 5.2 divided by 3.6. And I got no problem if you write your division as a fraction with brackets around it. I always use brackets because I always remember to use them. Okay? Oh, what did I do there? Clear. $55 degrees. Hands up if you got that. Good. Hey, I have a question for you. What's 35 plus 55? That's a quick check for you, right? Those angles got to add up to 90. So you can double check. Now when you're doing your work for the beginning questions, I want you to practice doing your work, but you can double check without checking back to the book, right? Okay. All right. Okay, turn it over. Yep. No. So, we're just going to go, we've already done all this stuff. What we're going to do is go down to finding sides. This is the last piece. This is the piece we actually use the most of. It's actually the easiest. So, we have our ratio, tan 34 degrees. There's a fraction, but we don't know the top side. This is the next page. Yeah, halfway down. This is on top.
It's got a different title.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine. So, instead of dividing by 145 degrees, what should we do? Times by 145. And we have to do that to both sides. What I like to do is I like to use brackets. And so then we say x equals 145 times tan 34 degrees. If you like, you can flip that around and say x equals 145 times tan 34 degrees. I do write the number in front because otherwise you can get this. Tan 34 degrees, 145, and you get some ugly number. Okay, so I don't usually do that. Okay, I usually do this. Good. Old school, you have to go 145 times 34 tan, and then equals. New school, type it in as you see it. You can even use brackets instead of the multiplication sign. But I wouldn't get into that habit. You should get 97.8. Usually like to round sides to one decimal. Okay, if you didn't get 97.8, come up real fast. Good. Shh. Okay, the next one. Now we have the unknown on the bottom. So the Y is trapped in the basement. It's dark. There's spiders. It's scared. It's got to get out. How do you get it out of the basement? No. This is a division. So what do you do instead of divide? Times it by Y. Times by Y. Those cancel. You're left with Y times 10, 54 degrees, equals 58. And what's the opposite of times 10, 54? Divide by it. So 58 divided by 10, 54 degrees. Now if you have an old school calculator, it's 58 divided by 54, 10, then equals. New school calculator, type it in as you see it. $42.1. Okay. So these are two opposite questions. The first one is the unknowns on top, and the second one's the unknown on the bottom. You have to memorize the differences. Okay. So let's start with the full meal deal. You have to find the side length of AB. Okay. So label your HOA. Go. So you can start by saying tan 30 degrees equals, now we can call that O, we can call that X, you can call that AB. What would you like to call it? Evan? O, sure, call it O then. I don't really care. So O over, what's the other number? 10. Okay, solve for O. Go. Do your line of work. One line of work, then your answer, you lazy buggers. Whoops, that was recorded. I mean, you nice students. 10 times 10, 30 degrees. So 10 times 10, 30 degrees is your work. Then go to your calculator, and you get 5.77, which rounds to 5.8. Hands up if you got that. Awesome. Do the next one now. Label your HOA. Got you. Okay, so I'm using capital E and capital F. Okay, you'll see that a lot of the work in the textbook and stuff. So first of all, I have to get it out of the basement by multiplying. And so that's the next line of work. And then I have to divide by 10, 20. Then go to my calculator. Don't go to your calculator until you've done the mental math. 9.6, is that right?
Yep.
Okay.